Elena Townsend, 211 Straw Court. This is my third time up here, and I want to thank you, Mr. Mills, for, I asked him if I was going to take somebody's place if I came up here, because I didn't know if there was a certain amount of people that could speak, and then there was a cutoff, because I was approached earlier that maybe I shouldn't speak tonight. Then I found out as many people that signed up can speak, so if any of you were wondering that, if they run out of time, then they'll have another meeting. So don't let that be a discouragement of coming up here to speak. I understand your job is hard, a lot of time and effort, but like a lot of people, we want to know, I don't think there's any money missing. I'd like to know how much a forensic audit costs, if that could be put out for us all to see, what the amount is. A lot of us just wanted you to wait to let the city manager go after this forensic audit. And I don't think that was too much to ask. And many of us are here because we're not out with our pitchforks and trying to burn down the city like I've seen on Next Door. I thought that was so silly. What we want is answers, so that's why we show up. You know, we want to hear both sides. We want to hear all sides, so we can make a judgment. I don't think anybody out here is just going to take sides without hearing everything. Sure, we're grown people. We know there's rumors out there. I think most of us have the intelligence to know what is a rumor and what is the truth. You know, there's a lot of ways to investigate, and many of us will do that. There's other things besides the water bill that bothered me. That monstrosity of a storage that's on 52nd and Bridge. It doesn't affect me, but it affects that other community, and y'all are here to protect that community. I would hate to wake up in the morning and look out my window and see that POS there, because that's what it is. You know, it devalues their homes. It's such an eyesore. And I understand that you guys posted some things out there, but there was a lot of construction there, and I don't know how many of you would get out of your car and go read that poster. It would have helped if it was online, Next Door, Facebook, you know, use several ways of media to let them know this. And then there's that place to drink coffee or whatever on Main Street. I look there all the time. I've never seen it being used. And what did you guys spend, like $7,000 on that? But you won't give a senior citizen a break? I don't get that. They're just people here that want answers. We're not out here to tear you down, because, you know, I made a lot of mistakes in my life. But when you're handling a city, I think you got to be a little bit more careful. And I'm for, you know, involving the community in this. If you could form, like somebody said, a city council, or not city council, a city group to work along with you, I don't see anything wrong with that. And I applaud the mayor from Fort Lupton to come over here and offer her services, or a group decision, I can't even think of the word, but I'm for that too. Anything that will help our water bill and for the senior citizens, they need a break. They really do need a break. So I hope you give it to them.
Thank you, Lynn. Joe Pinto. Joe, name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Joe Pinto, 65 South 10th Avenue, Brighton. I'm really sorry to see all the division that has blown up over this. And I think, like Elena said, that most people are not out to hang our leaders. And I'm sorry that it has turned into this deep division where a lot of us have known each other all of our lives and either gone to school together or gone to school with each other's children. It's really sad to see a community blow up like that. And I hope that we can start a healing process, because I think that's what this community needs to start doing. And I think a lot of people are capable of understanding the difference between facts and rumors. On the other hand, there's a thing called trust, and it's an odd thing because it takes a lifetime to build and a minute to shatter. And it's worth more than money can buy, but you can't buy it. And so we do need to start rebuilding that trust. So I really liked Wayne Scott's idea of putting together some kind of public forum where certain facts can be discussed. And I know you can't discuss personnel issues, but maybe you could discuss some of these whole water ideas and talk more about the utility department and talk about upcoming projects and costs and plans for the future, and even possibly maybe wait on this whole city manager thing. He's on leave. You haven't done anything permanent yet. And we understand personnel issues. We've all had people we can't work with. We've probably all had bosses that we couldn't stand. Everybody in this room has a story about a boss he or she couldn't stand. And maybe just wait until the forensic audit comes back. You haven't done a permanent decision yet. And it would go a long way toward rebuilding trust if you just wait. And those two things would go miles and miles. Otherwise, this community may be very divided, and our children's children may be working on rebuilding trust. And we don't want that. None of us want that. But either way, I hope that we can start healing from this, because we have so much going on in our other political world that we don't want to bring it here. Not to Brighton. It really has been very distressing over the last few weeks to see it come to our safe community. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Victoria, is it Gallardi? Gallardo, okay.
Mine is short and sweet, and I understand.
Name and address for the
Oh,
record.
Victoria Gallardo, 318 South 24th Avenue, Brighton, Colorado. Okay. All I'm going to say is, I know that you're going to do what you want to vote. However you're going to vote, you're going to vote. And listening to the people, I can tell you this right now. Listening to us, not going to make a difference. But I want to make you guys aware. I'm from the 4th precinct, and the two of you, I'm not going to be there very long. That's all. If you vote to terminate it.
Christine Schock.
I'm Christine Schock. I live at 184 Gaviota Avenue. I think we have a common theme in this room tonight, and it's that the council's anti-transparency chickens have come home to roost. Okay? We didn't get an answer when you fired the city manager in 2017. Swept under the rug, kept quiet. You know, nobody knows what really happened. What happened to the money? You know, is Portland's okay? That was all covered up. I came to this council a year ago when the development on 50th and Bridge was being conceived. Actually, it was already a done deal, but you told us it was being conceived. And this council scorned me and everyone else who testified because we hadn't gone to a meeting. Mr. Wallen looked into it for me, and he told me we weren't invited to the meeting. The landowners were invited to the meeting. The homeowners weren't. I sit within 300 feet of that yellow monstrosity on 50th and Bridge that you pushed down our throats. Mr. Humbert and Mr. Edwards, I am telling you, I am coming after you. I am a teacher. I have to return a phone call in 48 hours when a parent calls me. You have never once returned a phone call or an email from me. Ever. Okay? I'm a public servant. I return a phone call in 48 hours. I can tell you, most times, I am on the phone in 12. Okay? With this disaster, with the water, transparency would solve so much of what you are trying to, it feels like put past us. You know, what is going on? What's the money being used for? Why isn't the money being used? What I would like to propose, the dean I worked for at Red Rocks always said you cannot complain without having a solution, is that the board follow the same policies as School District 27J and put everything on the web, every notice, every P-card statement, everything. If 27J can do it for over 55,000 families in Thornton, Brighton, Commerce City, Weld County, this city should be able to do that. You need to notify people in their wards when a public hearing is coming up that could affect their property values, which mine is certainly going to go down looking at the yellow albatross. Because it's not fair to say, oh, we sent out a notice and you didn't attend the meeting when the notice was never sent by this board. So your transparency chickens are here. You need to figure out what to do with them. You need to be honest, forthright, and forthcoming to the citizens of Brighton.
Thank you. Jan Plowski. There you go. Good evening, Ms. Plasky. Name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, council. I appreciate being here tonight. Although it hasn't really been that high on my agenda, I've had other very pressing issues with a husband who's slowly dying. But it was important to me for my city to speak tonight. My name is Jan Pulowski, 850 South 7th Avenue, Brighton. When my husband accepted a council position at Brighton High School in 1967, I thought he had brought me to the jumping off point of the world. You could not use Brighton's water from shallow wells in babies' formulas due to the high nitrate levels caused from fertilizers used on the surrounding vegetable farmlands. I had grown up in Fort Collins, and because it was a forward-thinking city, We had great water there, as well as recreation amenities that were bar none. In 1967, Brighton didn't even have youth baseball. We had an outdoor pool. Now, how many times or how many months of the year can you use an outdoor pool? Therefore, in Brighton, we were forced to purchase our water in 5-gallon containers because of the safety concerns in cooking. When you prepared coffee, it had a scum on top. So did everything else you cooked. I became involved in slowly making changes through various boards, and in the early 90s, the then council decided to take the dive, and they brought online the reverse osmosis plant. In 1966, I became a Brighton City Council member, serving 4 of my 6 years on council as Mayor Pro Tem for Brighton's wonderful Mayor, Terrence V. Lucero. In 2001, when Brighton was 114 years old, I was voted Brighton's first woman mayor. I brag about that all the time. And I had to defeat 2 men. Both had previously served as mayors during a time when only council members selected who could be the mayor. During my 14 years on council, Brighton went from a population of 14,500 to over 30,000, more than doubling in size. And the first 12 years on council and as mayor, we had 1 city manager. John Bramble was his name. I think it's important to note that back in the 80s and 90s, a very aggressive city manager in the city of Thornton pushed his council to purchase as many water rights as possible throughout all of northern Colorado and into Wyoming. Thus, they became the drivers of the high price of water for all the neighboring cities, including Brighton. Throughout my tenure, because of the growth, we were perpetually faced with increasing rates. Councilman Wayne Scott finally suggested to incur small, steady, increasing amounts on our citizens rather than hitting them with infrequent but much higher rates. His motion passed unanimously. These monies were to be used as the city moved forward and grew. And near as I can tell, that is what resulted in the approximately $70 million surplus that the city manager has expressed concerns over. I don't believe there's any cover-up. I don't believe there's any deceit on the part of the council or the Brighton Water Department. The money is there in anticipation of increased rates due to arid conditions. Brighton holds the purse strings and we are at their mercy. These funds keep our citizens and agriculture safe in the event of rapid rate increase. After thoughtful consideration, I come here tonight to give and pledge my support to Mayor Ken Kreutzer and the majority of the council who are supporting moving the city in a different direction.
1 minute.
It is unfortunate that this has become the public circus that it has, because most of the members of council are longtime residents. They have the best interests of the city in mind. I regret that a few local uninformed citizens and a few grandstanding council members are creating conflicts rather than looking for solutions. We should consider that when more than the majority of the council decides to move in another direction, then we should heed that decision. The mayor has stated that the personnel matter has nothing to do with the funds or the publicity around the discovery of said funds. I believe him. They were never hidden funds. There's no secret here. Whatever the personnel matter is, I'm not privy to that, and that's as it should be. I just know that it distresses me to see the negative publicity that our beautiful city of Brighton has received the past few weeks, and I know we need a positive change. It's unfortunate we are not heeding the lessons from history. Perhaps we could have a gathering of previous and current council members and staff to discuss the history, deeds, actions, and all aspects of decisions so there may be a better understanding of what has taken place and why.
Thank you.
When the
Jan.
yearly evaluation
Jan?
of the city manager.
Thank you. That's true. Thank you.
You
so
know,
much.
can I ask as former mayor?
No.
Thank you, Jan,
Thank you.
and Godspeed to you.
Thank you.
Next is David Rivera. Mr. Rivera, your name and address for the record. You have 5 minutes.
My name is David Herrera. I'm an attorney. I represent Philip Rodriguez. My address is 3600 South College Avenue, Suite 204, Fort Collins, Colorado. This matter started in late September 2018 with the efforts of Philip Rodriguez to get to the bottom of a $70 million mystery. In this chamber tonight, there's been a discussion about the 70 million, but it's more than that, and you all know that. There's 127 million in net investments in the capital assets. The 70 million is in addition to that. There's nearly $200 million in the water fund. The $70 million is unrestricted. The city will bring in somewhere between 30 million and 40 million in new revenue this year. Mr. Rodriguez told you about the $70 million mystery. He told you that the citizens and businesses of Brighton, Colorado were being overcharged for their utilities, and not just a little bit. On October 2nd, within a couple of weeks of telling you this, you held an illegal executive session in an attempt to get him to resign or to fire him, to keep him from uncovering the truth. Despite his demand to preserve the record of that illegal meeting, you did not have the votes to go into executive session. You went into executive session anyway. You did not preserve that record. It has allegedly disappeared. He told you that there was a phantom water treatment project and fictitious debts in the utility fund. He told you that there were huge no-bid contracts. He told you that there were enormous unexplained change orders. The majority of you did nothing except to try to keep him quiet. He put forth a plan to get to the bottom of the problem. He proposed a forensic audit. Finally, as a private citizen of the city of Brighton, he wrote to the U.S. Department of Justice and the Colorado Attorney General. That got your attention, but not in a good way. You reluctantly approved his recommended audit, and within 6 days after an illegal vote, you proposed to fire him. Now, you did this through what is known as a walking quorum. That is illegal. Now, tonight, 1 week after you approved the audit, you intend to terminate his employment for his private speech on a matter of public concern, when his free speech interests were not outweighed by your interest in keeping him silent, when you have already repeatedly admitted that his having written to the Department of Justice and the Attorney General is a motivation for your decision tonight, and that you would not have reached this decision that you're about to make but for his being a whistleblower. There's been a discussion about not discussing personnel matters in public. That's false, and you know it's false. You know that if you want to talk about personnel matters, you call an executive session, and the affected employee has every right to have that done in public. You've not told Mr. Rodriguez about cause. You haven't told him if he's being fired for cause or not for cause. And you know he has a contract. That contract says that you're supposed to do an evaluation, one-on-one, within the last year. None of you did it, right? Not one of you did it. And so there's no evaluation of him, no goals, no standards, and he's going to get fired. Okay, if your decision is to terminate him for cause, you know the contract says
1 minute.
that he's entitled to a written statement of the reasons. You've never given him the reasons. He wants the written reasons, and he wants that public. Go ahead, make your decision public, but everybody knows you've already made your decision. It's in violation of his contract, it's in violation of the city charter, and in violation of the Colorado Open Meetings Act. Perhaps you think nobody noticed your use of the walking quorum when last week you rubber stamped the polling of votes. We noticed, they noticed. So have your vote. You're set to recklessly disregard Mr. Rodriguez's clearly established rights. Your eyes are wide open. Proceed as you will.
Next person to speak is Kitty Ladon.
Oh, great, that's a tough act to follow.
Kitty Ladon. Oh, coming in from the back, okay. I think she's coming in from the back. Ms. Ladon?
Hi, I'm Kitty Ladon,
Name and address.
391 Eastern Avenue, Brighton, Colorado, and this is a really tough act to follow. First of all, I want to thank you very much for this, and you are appreciated. I will tell you that after the last 3 weeks, I used to get phone calls for the city council meetings, which I've enjoyed and have learned a lot. And I have no doubt whatsoever that you all do care about this community and this town. I have to tell you, I understand, I have sat on many boards in my life as a fair witness. And that's a tough job, and what you do is a tough job too. But I also know that perception is very important. It's as important as the presentation. And the presentation that I have seen over the last 3 weeks was horrific. It is extremely clear that you have a divided council. This council can't stand if you're divided, and part of the division of the council is causing a division in this community, okay? And I realize, especially now, that when you are elected as a council member, that does not mean that you know everything about what runs this community, okay? I will certainly, the next time I vote, make that a real priority in who I vote for on what they know. I will also make it a priority to see if these people are gonna get along. Because right now, and I am not trying to be disrespectful, but right now, you're not helping our community. And again, we go back to presentation and perception and what's happened over the last 3 weeks. And I do understand that you cannot give reason for letting somebody go on a personnel issue. The problem that the public is having, I'm part of the public, and for us, again, perspective is your timing is beyond ridiculous. Okay, beyond ridiculous. It's making you all look bad. It's making you all look like you're in high school, as much as we are now reflecting that. And so I am extremely grateful that this was all brought to our attention. And I have to say that I think part of that, as a member of the public, is also my fault. It's all our fault. Because none of us were like, okay, you're voted in, here you go, you do it. And none of us have asked questions either. But what's more frustrating with all of this is when this presentation was brought to us, which I think was done very professionally, on point, and explained everything, I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And you all came back with nothing. And I think that is the greatest frustration is, we're not getting anything back from you. And it's like a little kid who's like, I'm being punished, I don't know why, can you talk to me about it? And we're not getting anything from you. And that is a great frustration. And yes, it causes an emotional response. But we've also seen that from you guys too. Please, please come together on this. And I also think, somebody had said that doing a forensic audit was going to cost us a lot of money. Well, in the several years that we're losing 2 city managers, I can't even think of what it is to buy out their contracts. So a thought that I might have for you that we could all help on is, why don't you let Brighton find and vote in a city manager, and we'll handle that person. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Jim Snyder. Yeah, I guess to expedite things, after Jim Snyder, it's going to be Wayne Fulford. Mr. Snyder, name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Jim Snyder, 1266 Lakeview Court, Brighton, Colorado. Here we are again. I spoke a couple weeks ago, and I was in hopes that some common sense would prevail. You know, we have a guy come up here and say, well, if we have a community, we all get along. He must have missed the history class when they talked about the Emancipation Proclamation, or they talked about the Civil War, or they talked about the Boston Tea Party. People don't always get along. When there is an issue that is so great and so grievous that it offends more than 50% of the community, then the community does not just agree and sit down and be quiet, which is what we're being asked to do. I told you the last time I was up here, and I meant it from the bottom of my heart. You, Mr. Kreutzer, you, Mr. Edwards, and everybody on this council. I respect you. I respect the time that you give up, the dinners you miss, the committees you serve on to serve this community. And we've had a lot of people come in here and sing your praises tonight. And I would like to echo what they said. However, we have a situation here that requires a hero. We need a George Washington. We need a Thomas Jefferson. We got 5 people that have already made up their mind to let this man go. We need one of you to have the courage to change your mind, to stand up and say, wait a minute, what's the hurry? Who put their foot on the accelerator? You voted 2 weeks ago. All of my neighbors were complaining about how something was rotten in Denmark, and you came in and you did the right thing. I watched the vote right on that screen, unanimous. Let's do a forensic audit. You know what happened in my neighborhood? People said, hey, you know what? They're going to do the right thing. Nobody's calling anybody crooks. Nobody's saying you're stealing. Everybody just wants the truth. That's what I told you last time. I'm going to tell you the same thing tonight. They want the truth. And they want the truth before you drag a man out in the street and lop his head off. I don't know if this man needs fired or not. I said that last time. I'll say it again.